What are you trying to say?
Oh my God, you're so annoying. Jesus, take the wheel.
Oh my goodness, you guys. You know what we're going to talk about this week? We are going to talk about the audacity of ignorance. Oh boy, is there a lot of audacity when it comes to ignorant people and making their voices heard. And unfortunately, sometimes the ignorant people, the ones that are saying the most horrifying things, are the ones that are the loudest ones in the room. It's just horrible. And so we're going to talk about this week, and we're going to talk about it in the realm of a story that came to my attention that I wanted to share, because as I read it, I was just shocked by it, and I am going to link it for you. So this week's video has to do with the audacity of ignorance, and it has to do with race relations. Ready? Let's go. So this takes place at an Olive Garden in Indiana, and I'm just going to read this to you. A racist incident took place at an Olive Garden in Eastville, Indiana, on a busy Saturday dinner rush. A woman who was having dinner at a restaurant chain reportedly made racist comments to the black hostess who was on duty. She also asked for a server who wasn't black. Amira Donahue, the 16-year-old hostess, so she's 16 and having to deal with this crap. So the 16-year-old hostess who was working at a time of the incident talked to NBC News about the unsettling incident. And she said, "She made comments about me to my coworkers concerning my race and saying that I should work at a strip club instead. She asked if I'm even black and if I am from here." Now, that to me, right off the bat, is first she's insulting her for being black, and then she's questioning whether she's black almost in the same breath. So something is cuckoo going on in that woman from the get-go. Amira said that the customer was seated with a few other people, and she also had 2 children with her. She began to get agitated and become enraged, asking loudly for a server who wasn't black. The manager then obliged the racist, and this is the part that is so crazy. We definitely need more training with people. I am a firm believer in being over-prepared. Be over-prepared for situations. And as a manager, you need to be prepared for situations like this, and you need to know what you're going to do if something crazy happens. Now, we live in a climate where, because of and I'm just going to say it, because of Trump, he kind of allowed, all these people who were kind of under the rug to come forward and feel comfortable stating their racism out loud. And I feel like, there's always been people that were not afraid to be racist in public, but a lot of people were under the rug and hiding their racism, and they were just being racist amongst the other racists. And now we have these racists who are out in the light of day. They're like cockroaches that don't flee anymore from the light. They're just out there everywhere, and they still feel that, back in the day when Trump was their president, our president, they were getting their approval from him to have this bad behavior and to say these awful things. Well, we don't have that anymore, and we're trying to go back to some semblance of reason and dignity and respect of other people, and back to that thing of trying to get people who think like this to not think this way, and it will never end. But I think where we are going to see a difference is in the level of people thinking that that's just the popular idea that they can just say out loud. And in this case, this person obviously still felt that they could say things out loud like this without a consequence. And what made it worse was that the manager then obliged the negative comment. So it's like, if you have a child and they start throwing a tantrum, and then you give in and give them a piece of candy because they threw the tantrum, you're just rewarding bad behavior. And basically what that manager did was reward bad behavior by accommodating their racist request, because racism is not acceptable. I will say it again. Racism is not acceptable. If you are someone listening to this and you think that racism is acceptable, you know, you might want to go to another channel, because I'm not going to ever agree with any of that. It's a horrible thing. It's something that, like, and I'm going to link below the actual, the article, and there's a video of Amira talking. And she says something really important, which is, I thought we were over this. This is 2023. Like, I thought we were over doing stuff like this, saying stuff like this, treating people like this, and the sad thing is, there's always going to be people that are raised up in these types of attitudes. So what I think about, they're sitting at this table and there's two children sitting there. And who is their mentor and teacher? The person that was being a racist. And those children undoubtedly are going to grow up with those attitudes, unless some kind of intervention happens, or I don't know the situation of who this person was. Hopefully they don't live with them, and hopefully they live with good people that don't think that way. But a lot of times birds of a feather flock together. And so this person may have been sitting with a bunch of racists who go home and talk about racist things and say racial slurs and do all these things. And unfortunately, the children that are listening to this are growing up with these ideals, these ideas of people and who they are based on the color of their skin, and all these other fears that they have about people, and the comment about strip clubs. So obviously there was some attitude in there that, somehow, black people are indecent and they're all strippers and, whatever the thought processes are. Those kids, if they're in a household with someone like that, or even in today's day and age, are going to grow up with those thought processes. Hopefully there's some intervention, and hopefully some radical things happen throughout our history, throughout our, our culture, our society, that radically change, so that, people that are influenced by this stuff can see that the whole of society does not think like this. And this is like an outdated, obsolete type of thing. And the people that are going to be like that and say things like that are we already know they are becoming obsolete. But unfortunately, ignorance is always the loudest voice in the room. And so we're having to deal with this. And, whom I say, we have to deal with this. We all have to listen to this, people who are not racist, who have to listen to all these stories. But let me be clear, I do not experience things the same way that a black person does, because they live it. They can't jump out of their skin and not have to be, potentially hurt by people that are doing this, right? So the experience that Amira had, I can feel for her and understand, but it's not going to be my experience, so we just have to do better. We have to do better. And for people who are in management and in leadership, there has to be more discussion on how to handle people like this, because in life we are going to come across people that are like this, and we have to know, how do we handle this? I'm a proponent of be over prepared, even if you have to, you under deliver. You don't ever have to use it. Be prepared. Have the plan B. What the response should have been? The response should have been that manager asked them to leave, because racism is not acceptable. And I don't care how much your plate of food or your how much your bill was going to come to. This is a chain. And the chain is going to make a ton of money every day without you. So guess what? You don't get to eat here because your behavior is disturbing everybody else here, because everyone else here, hopefully, is not a racist. And if they are a racist, they aren't making a scene. They're under the rug and nobody knows it, and they're not bothering the employees. Okay. And that doesn't make it right. That just means that we don't need you here with that attitude and with that belief system, and with you coming in here and thinking that you can disrupt everybody, upset everybody. And you are so loud and boisterous about your belief system that you actually think you're in the right. That's a person who is not connected to reality. They probably didn't even realize that everybody in there is like, what the hell is wrong with you? So I just wanted to talk about that this week's word salad, with a side of confusion. It's always confusing how people have these belief systems. But, if you take the whole understanding of knowing that, where does this come from? We're in a day and age where we just don't believe in these things, but we have to remember people's roots. And people's roots, well, they're grandparents who had these ideas, they've got grandchildren and they have children. The children grew up around these ideas. And unless people really read and enlighten themselves and come up out of, just whatever someone fed them, instead of regurgitating everything that they get from the older generation, they actually challenge the generational view and they look at the world we live in today and how we've evolved and how we become better healers, better Christians, better human beings, so that we can treat everybody with respect and dignity. Until we do that, you're going to have people raised in households with ignorant people, and they're going to bring them up around all those ignorant ideas, thoughts, the tribalism, and you're going to have the next generation of people doing that. So no matter what year we're in, it keeps happening. I'm hoping that over time, our society radically changes and shifts in the light and in love. And this may be, an altruistic thing, and it's okay because I'm a dreamer. But I think it's the dreamers of our world who know what the reality is right now, but they dream for a better future. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm asking you to do too this week, is dream for a better future. And the way that you create change is by being the change yourself. Okay. So seeing something like that, I know for me, I wouldn't even allow that. If I saw that manager say, okay, we're going to accommodate you, I would have yelled out. But that's me. I would have been like, no, you don't accommodate a racist. I would have said, you tell her to leave. You're doing the wrong thing, brother. And sure enough, just to give you the end of that story, that manager got fired. Guess what? Because he did the wrong thing. Because it is not the mass belief system that racist ideas are okay. In fact, the masses believe that it is not. And the people that are audaciously racist are just yelling things out loud because they're not afraid of being rude, of being loud, where other people are more dignified. They don't care about that, right? But they are, and we have to remember this so that we don't get so upset. I mean, we should get upset about these things that happen, but we shouldn't start believing that people aren't good, because the majority of the people do not agree with those. And the reason why we hear so much about racism, these types of things, is because it is so shocking. It makes the news. But we have to remember that the majority of the people do not believe like that. They don't act out on things like that. They don't agree with that. And I like to hope and believe that we're better than that and that people can change. And so I'm a dreamer, and I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world, and I hope that you do too. Oh boy. And that is this week's word salad with a side of confusion. I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. You agree with me? You don't agree with me? Leave a comment about what you think and any experience you may have had. Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.